guys, how you doing today? I hope you're doing well. We are in Maysville, Kentucky, and we have been here we were here about a year ago, and I could not find what I was looking for, but today we found the grave of Rosemary Clooney. And she was born here in Maysville, her and her brother, one of five. And of course her brother, Nick, was a radio announcer in Cincinnati, Ohio, but Rosemary went on to have an illustrious career in Hollywood as a singer and an actress. And she, was a pop music icon back in the 50s. There was one time during like a 10-year span that she had the top 10 records were hers, and she had many number one hits. She had performed for the Queen several times. I saw her on What's My Line the other night, and she was actually had just returned from the inauguration, and she had done that several times. She had her own television show. She worked with so many famous people, of course, Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis. She lived at 1019 North Roxbury in Beverly Hills, and her neighbors were Jimmy Stewart, Lucille Ball, Agnes Moorehead, Peter Falk, Ginger Rogers, Jack Benny, Eddie Cantor, and Diane Keaton lived there. She actually sold her house to Madonna. And the home she lived in was built in 1928, and Ira and George Gershwin lived there before Rosemary and her husband, Jose Farrar, lived there. She was married to him twice. They had 5 children, but she lived there from 1953 to 2002 and died in the home surrounded by her children. But the interesting thing about that, we're about 24 miles from Augusta, Kentucky, where her home sits on the Ohio River. I was there about a year ago, and the home is owned by Dr. Stephen Henry, and his wife, Heather French Henry, was Miss America 2000. He was a local orthopedic surgeon, but they bought the house, and Rosemary would travel between Beverly Hills and Augusta just to have some peace. They said she used to sit on the porch and just watch the Ohio River, which ran right in front of the house. It's a beautiful old stately home, and like I said, I was there about a year ago. But they have the largest collection of memorabilia and costumes from the movie White Christmas, which Rosemary starred in with Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, and Vera Ellen. And it is my most favorite Christmas movie, and it's getting ready to be shown again. They show it every season, so you guys need to watch it. You'll see the costumes that were designed by Edith Head, and they have many of those costumes there in the museum. They're just iconic. And the movie next year will be 70 years old, and these costumes look like they're brand new. And I heard Heather French Henry talking about it, and they found movie props from all over the world, Australia and different places, and they kind of trying to negotiate with people over these iconic props that they've saved. Like one thing, they have Bing Crosby's uniform, they have the sisters' 2 blue dresses, they have a lot of the just the scenes that you guys will remember. They have their costumes. Vera Ellen's costume from the Mandy scene. She told me, she said that they had found the carriage that was in the last scene, the horse-drawn carriage, when they open up the curtains and it's finally started to snow and the horse-drawn carriage is pulled up. They found that, and she said they went to pick it up, and they took a trailer and they met the people in the parking lot of like a fast food place, and they opened up their trailer and they backed up to each other, and they loaded this huge sleigh onto a trailer in the middle of a fast food parking lot, and people are like, "What are you doing? What's that?" And they said, "Well, this is the carriage from White Christmas." And she said everybody's jaw would just drop. What are the odds of that? But I mean, she just tells so many stories of how they got the props. They have the gloves that Rosemary wore in a lot of her scenes. But it's so worth a trip to Augusta. The the artifacts right now are being loaned out to another museum in Louisville, but they will open back up the Rosemary Clooney house in April. But Dr. Henry had told me that, you know, the house Rosemary lived in out in there at 1019 North Roxbury, as I said, used to be owned by George and Ira Gershwin, and then Rosemary, and then all of her neighbors. You know, they used to have, like, her kids would have lemonade stands, and Jimmy Stewart would come and get lemonade from the kids. And one time, you know, the kids said they walked downstairs, and down there would be, you know, people just sitting, enjoying some coffee or a drink. Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Bill Haley, Marlene Dietrich, Charlie Chaplin would, you know, they would just come over and hang out at her house. And all of those houses out there, Lucy's house, Jack Benny's house, they've all been torn down. You know, it just seems like they don't respect, you know, the history of Hollywood. But Dr. Henry went out there with a trailer, and when they tore down that house, he got all of the, you know, he said he couldn't get the fireplaces because they were too large, but he picked up the bricks and all the things from the George and Ira Gershwin house. Of course, they were, you know, songwriters that had some of the most classic songs, you know, of the 20th century written in that house. So he brought a lot, as much as he could, back of that home, and he's going to build a fence and build some structures at her home in Augusta, Kentucky. So can you imagine that house from 19 North Roxbury, that, you know, saw so many guests and people, you know, famous people, are going to be here in Kentucky. So it's worth you going to see it when it opens back up in April, and they can tell you so much more. I did do a vlog on the house. The props had just returned from a tour, so they were sitting out so we could actually get up close and get near them, touch them, you know, which was so amazing. Like I said, the movie's 70 years old this year. But I just want to come here and visit Rosemary. She loved her hometown. Like I said, she has that house here that she lived in and would go back and forth. Her bedroom is still there as it was, and so many of her personal belongings. But she actually got married here for the last time to Dante DePaulo. They had worked together when she was younger. He was a dancer. But after her 2 marriages to Jose Ferrar had ended, she and Dante DePaulo reconnected, and what he said had happened was they were driving and both came up to a red light at the same time in Beverly Hills, and she had a Thunderbird and he had a Corvette, and the Henrys still have those 2 cars, and they're there at the house in Augusta. But he said they pulled up, and they, you know, she saw him, he saw her, they waved at each other, and he said, you know, can I have your phone number? And he said that the dash in his car was so dusty when she gave him her number that he wrote it in the dust on the dash of the car, and that's how he kept, you know, remembered her phone number. And he called her, and they married, and they were married until her death in 2002. And, you know, just really was a great guy. All of her family said they just really loved him. He was such a support for her. And he's since passed away as well. I don't know where he's buried, but she is buried here alone in her beloved Maysville. So I hope you will come visit. We were just downtown, and a beautiful historic town. So Rosemary, rest in peace. And remember that God loves you. Until we see you again. Bye.